630. WMAL.
537 on WMAL. This is where Washington comes to talk. Good afternoon. I'm Larry O'Connor. You're listening to Washington's Drive at 5. And boy, oh boy, am I fired up about this story out of Arlington, Virginia, where a man, a former Marine, I always do former Marine and I get corrected, a retired Marine, James Gates, proudly served our country, now wants to enter into a bit of commerce, opening up a gun shop. He already owns Nova Firearms, and now he wants to open one up in Arlington because his customers were asking him for one in Arlington. You know, closer to work, you can imagine who his customers are. And so he goes, he signs the lease, and, well, James Gates joins us right now because you've got your lease, you're already building out, you've got the shop in a strip mall there right off Lee Highway, you've done the flooring, you've painted the walls, you've bought your cabinets, and now what happens?
Well, apparently the community is not very happy with the gun store coming in. So right now our landlord was trying to find a way to legally break the lease. I'm hoping we've convinced him to give us a chance. We have a meeting with the community coming up. Hopefully we can address some of the issues that they're having, hopefully make them a little more at ease with us being there.
Well, and let's be clear here. You just said you were meeting with the community. It's on your behest. You want to talk to your neighbors. But your neighbors, they never bothered to talk to you. They never bothered to seek you out, find out what your store was going to be like, what kind of person you are. They saw a gun store in the neighborhood, and suddenly they start an online petition trying to bully your landlord into breaking your lease. What's the basis of their argument here?
That's correct. Actually, nobody but one person actually reached out to us to ask us, to address their concerns. So all this online has come to us online. Nobody's come to us to ask us any questions. Most of the concerns from all the comments and petitions that I've read was they're worried about the kids seeing guns on the walls as they walk by our shop to the local 7-Eleven. If that's the only concern, I can assure everybody that won't be an issue.
So they just didn't want, as they're walking by, looking through the window of your store, they're concerned about seeing firearms.
That's one of the major concerns that I see on all the comments. Again, nobody has called me directly with any questions that they want answered. Everything that I've read has been online just like everybody else.
Unbelievable. And a part of the argument here is that there is an elementary school in the neighborhood, right? It's a little over 2 blocks down Lee Highway from where your location will be.
That is correct. And I understand a concern about guns being so close to schools. Our shop in McLean is next to several local schools. There's a pediatric doctor right across the street from us, and we haven't had any issues from the community here in McLean at all.
Now, I've heard that there's a threat from these neighbors. They're not backing down. You just said the owner is trying to legally break your lease, and you're standing firm on that. Now the neighbors, based on the Washington Times article I read, say that they're looking to start picketing, and they're gonna be camped out in front of your store with picket signs trying to shame you into closing your doors. Are you prepared for that?
Prepared, I guess. I don't really know what to do about it other than, they have the right to free speech. I'll give them that. I hope it's not too hot out. If it is, I'll probably provide them water. We have the right to legally sell firearms. With all the state and federal regulations, we still do it legally. They can legally protest. We want to be part of the community. If we can give back in any way, we will. I'm willing to find a common ground to make everybody happy.
I got to ask you, I find it, you seem so calm about this and so mild-mannered. You are a retired Marine. You raised your hand and put your life on the line to protect their right to protest. It's got to be infuriating to see them treating you this way.
Select few can't speak for the masses. We do have several clients and customers in Arlington that have asked us to be there. They encouraged us to move because our McLean store is kind of small. The only reason we actually located a larger place is because we needed the more space. It wasn't because we were trying to set up shop closer to D.C. like a lot of the people are claiming. That's not it at all. We happened to get introduced to the landlord. He seemed gun-friendly. We came to an agreement. We signed a lease. We actually signed the lease back in March. So now that it's getting out, he's trying to take it back.
Well, yeah, listen, he's dealing with an outraged community, and not everybody has the sort of fortitude that you have to stand up to this sort of thing. And by the way, this store has been empty for nearly a year, correct? Mm-hmm. It's a former Curbs, one of those chain exercise places. You're not going to let any kids into the store, right? No one under 17 allowed?
No one under 17 allowed without an adult. We do have some customers that come in with their young children. We actually supplied some American rifles to the local Boy Scout troop so they can learn how to shoot safely. And we've had them with their parents come into the shop. They can't handle anything. The customers seem to respect that. But if they don't have a parent or guardian, they are not allowed in the store, and they certainly aren't allowed to handle firearms, even if they are with their guardian.
And how long have you and your partner owned Nova Firearms in McLean?
We actually took possession of the store August 15th in 2014. So we've been expanding rapidly since then.
Good for you in this economy. It's always good to see a thriving entrepreneur. And in the year that you've been, or nearly a year that you've been working with Nova Firearms or running that place, have you had any issues with the ATF? Has there been any problems with how you conduct your business?
Not at all. Not one question has come up. Nothing. We've abided by all the laws, all the regulations. We've had no issues with the state or the federal government.
Every person purchasing from you goes through the federally mandated background checks?
That is correct.
So the proximity to a school really doesn't make a difference in terms of some, awful imaginary event that could happen where someone, wants to run in, grab a gun, and then go do some terrible thing.
No.
The proximity issue, as you articulated, seems to be about just the idea of children seeing a firearm as they walk to their school. And how can you guarantee that they won't see these firearms if that really is the big concern?
If I have to tint the windows so that you can't see through them, as long as the county will legally allow me to do it, if I have to do that, I'll do that. That makes our neighbors more at ease.
Wow.
I'm more than willing to do it. Right now I feel sort of bad for, our surrounding businesses because people are threatening to boycott.
Right.
The frame shop and the flower store had nothing to do with us moving.
They want to boycott the whole strip mall to try to bully this landlord into breaking your lease.
Exactly. And they had nothing to do with it, and I feel bad that they're going to suffer, and I hope they don't, and I hope this, all kind of blows over, and I just don't think that's right that they're going to boycott another legal business because of something that they had no choice over.
Absolutely. Listen, James Gates, keep fighting the fight. If you need a forum here on MAL, let us know. We'd love to continue the conversation on this. Thanks for joining us. Let's continue the conversation with you. What do you think James Gates should do, the owner of this store, who's now being threatened with protests, with boycotts of the stores around him because he wants to sell guns, which, by the way, is legal, even in Arlington? Give us a call, 888-630-W.
Heading home. Washington's Drive at 5. Now on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Just a couple of observations about this neighborhood in Arlington, right off Lee Highway, where we're talking about the Cherrydale neighborhood. So you heard James Gates there talk about how they're up in arms about the fact that these kids might see a firearm in the window as they're walking to the 7-Eleven. Have you seen some of the biker magazines at 7-Eleven that they sell? And forget that. What about the junk they sell for the kids to eat at the 7-Eleven? Also, by the way, right across the street from the school in question, a Dunkin' Donuts. Remember how childhood obesity was a big problem? But that Dunkin' Donuts, they're not going to have a no 17-year-olds allowed in our store policy. But here's one more better for you. Just under a mile up the road from this location in question, just a mile up Lee Highway from where this gun shop is going to be, is a tattoo parlor. They do tattoos and they do piercings. And I kid you not, it is 2 buildings away from the Arlington County School. 2 buildings away and around the block from a Montessori school. But piercings and tattoos, that's no problem. But the Second Amendment being exercised in the cradle of liberty here in Washington, D.C., that we couldn't have. All right, let's start with Tom in Warrenton. You're first up on WMAL. Hey, Tom.
Hi. First of all, I just wanted to thank that gentleman for his service to our country. And then I wanted to say that at least I don't think you frame this as a liberal-conservative issue, but I am a uber-liberal Democrat and a former shotgun owner for deer hunting. And I wish the gentleman the very best. I hope he can stick it through and that these folks Well, I don't know what their arguments would be against it. I mean, you mentioned seen, but
they don't want
any
to see
other
a gun.
argument's been raised about it?
They said that it's Tom. Listen, thanks for the call, and you're right. I didn't set it up as liberal conservative. Although I have to say, I don't see how a classic liberal, or excuse me, today's liberal can be in favor of this gun shop. I mean, do you still call yourself a liberal?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a pro-Obama, looking forward to the Democrats taking the House, but I'm also I don't see guns as or at least. Gun store as a liberal conservative
Tom,
issue. I was a deer hunter for years.
Where do you think Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton, if you ask them, what do you think of this gun shop being open 2 blocks away from a school, what would their position be?
With only the details that I've heard so far on this broadcast, I don't see how they could come out against it with a straight face. I mean, I really don't.
All right, Tom. Listen, God bless you, and thanks for listening. I respectfully disagree. And by the way, you asked what the other arguments were. They don't want to see the guns. They've also said that they think it creates confusion to the children because of what they learn in school about guns and the fact that they're constantly talking to them about safety with regard to potential shooters in their school. They think it would, kid you not, create confusion for children if they see a gun shop 2 blocks away, because kids can't figure out the difference between legal firearms and a crazy man with a gun. All right, what would you do if you were this man? Chad in Ashburn, you're next up on WMAL. Go ahead, Chad.
Hey, Larry. This guy needs to stand strong. Every week somewhere in America, a hateful, intolerant liberal is trying to persecute anyone who thinks differently from them, and if you give in to the haters, we all lose.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chad. He sounds like he's standing strong, but boy, he's a braver man. Honestly, that's got to be a tough thing. He's got his livelihood in this, and he's going to have people picketing in front of his store. It's tough. Kim in West Virginia, you're next up on WMAL. Hey, Kim.
Kudos to the young man and his service, and I want to say I hope he does stand strong like the other callers have said. I'd like to know about these parents, what their kids are allowed to view on TV, at the movies, what kind of video games do they play.
Yeah.
It's totally ridiculous.
Thank you,
maybe
Kim.
They ought to pay attention to parents.
Listen, thank you, Kim. I agree with everything you said except for the video game thing. We got to be careful to protect that First Amendment as much as we protect the Second Amendment. Let me just say this to James Gates, who he's going to open his store. If he does get protests, if he does get pickets, I'm going to be there on opening day to buy a firearm. You got to support this guy. We should all be there to buy a gun on day one. It's 5:53.
105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL. Thanks for listening to Washington's Drive at 5 podcast from 105.9 FM and AM 630 Washington's Mall, WMAL. Listen to Washington's Drive at 5 live weekdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on WMAL. And download more free original content daily from WMAL.com.